the alien came over to me and was like, okay, like, let's go. Let's go on this journey. Welcome back to Divine Dimensions. My name is Darian, and today I will be uncovering and recapping my entire ayahuasca experience. So 2 weeks ago, I was in Costa Rica at a beautiful resort called Rythmia, where they host very intentional and very well supported ayahuasca ceremonies. So I am going to be watching back my footage for the first time right now and kind of helping to narrate. Over the course of the week, I sat with ayahuasca for 4 nights. So I arrived on Saturday, the ceremony started on Monday, went until Thursday, and then I left on Saturday. So I just wanna preview what exactly ayahuasca is and why it works in our bodies. So essentially, ayahuasca is a very powerful, potent dimethyltryptamine DMT compound that combines 2 plant materials. So DMT secretes in all living things. We secrete DMT from our pineal glands, plants secrete DMT. There's DMT everywhere. DMT is essentially life force energy, is what I perceive it as, since it is present in every life form. And so usually when, if we eat a flower or fruit, we're not tripping out. But when it's combined in a molecular order, when it's combined with this root and vine system, it allows for our stomach molecules, for our gut to absorb it, therefore allowing us to actually experience its effects. I think I'm going to have this be a 2-part video because the first 2 ceremonies were very intense on their own, and then the last 2 ceremonies were also very intense on their own. So every day after each ceremony, I sat down and made a video recalling all of my memories. So it's gonna be really interesting for me to go along these videos with you because I don't remember a lot that happened. I remember like the main things, but let's just get right into it. And I'm gonna say that this first video, I look like I'm dying. And it was because I had experienced something extremely traumatic, which I'm about to talk about, but I don't want for you to see my first few days experience and be freaked out, because there were, good experiences and not so good experiences with it, but I just want to forewarn you that I look like I am struggling. Let's get right to it. Today is April 12th, 2022, and yesterday I had my first ayahuasca ceremony. It was from 5:30 to 2:30 a.m. and it was a very intense experience. So there was a whole opening ceremony, and then the shamans spoke about blessing the medicine, and we're gonna all line up in 2 lines and then receive the medicine. And when I was standing in line, I was feeling at peace, and I was feeling good and grounded before the ceremony started. My heart started beating faster as I was 3 people away from receiving the medicine. And then once I received it, I drank it right away, because you receive it from the shaman and then you drink. And I was surprised at how good it tasted, actually. I thought it tasted like a very concentrated cacao mushroom, like reishi, lion's mane kind of mixture. So it didn't have a bitter kind of alcohol-y taste that I was expecting. I was kind of expecting to take it and have it be hot on my stomach right away, but it wasn't. And so I went back to my mat. Everybody has their own mattress, like a twin size mattress, pillow, blanket, puke bucket, and tissue. And on the first one, I didn't feel a lot. I was just meditating and being really aware with what was coming through, if I was feeling anything, seeing anything, and I wasn't really seeing a lot. And then I kind of started seeing kind of what felt like random images. I saw somebody standing on a counter, at a laundromat, with a blanket over their head and a basket over their head, dancing on the counter. And then I also saw a grandmother in a woodsy forest kind of area, and I walked over to her, and her face was a tree, And then she told me to open my hand, and she put something in my hand, and it was like a cross, but instead of it just being like straight like this, it was like kind of almost like daggered at the ends. And then it's so hard to explain, but then I saw like these like octopus eyes come through. And before the ceremony, the instructor said that there are some spirits that will come and do like a spiritual surgery on you, and one of them is an octopus. One of them is like a half techie praying mantis, and some other ones. But those two came to me, and I didn't feel them ask if they could do surgery on me, but I just like with the open heart like was accepting to it. And I just saw the octopus. I didn't like experience a lot, but for the praying mantis one, I definitely was seeing like just like layers. It was like lotus layers of my heart and soul just like peeling back and opening. But it was pretty mild. Like I was aware that it was happening, but it wasn't feeling like really vivid in a way. I feel like my whole experience, everything almost felt like as if I was looking at it from my peripheral vision instead of just like really clear. And then I didn't throw up the first cup, and that was something I was kind of like worried about a little bit, because I didn't want to force myself to throw up, and I don't like the sensation of throwing up. So, but like I felt nausea come up, but I was waiting to see if I would feel this feeling of like, okay, I need to throw up right now, instead of just like making it come out. So when I was laying there with the first cup, I was like, okay, maybe I'm like so spiritually attuned that I don't need to purge anything. And I was kind of feeling like more aligned with the facilitators, and I feel like that was just like all ego coming through. But that's how I was feeling on the first cup. They announced that you could get up to drink the second cup, and at first I was feeling like I didn't want to really drink the second cup. So I went outside when they announced it, and I like looked at the stars and the moon and connected with the earth. And then the wind was pushing me to go back inside to go drink the second cup. Like there was resistance within my mind, but the wind was literally like pushing me like from this side, and like here's the door. It was like telling me to go back in. So I was like, okay, I got this. And because I was feeling like, oh, if I drink the second cup, like I might throw up. So I drank the second cup, and it's definitely starting to see and feel a lot more. There was this couple that babysat me for the first time. Like it was the first time my parents left me to go on vacation, and I couldn't remember their names at first, but their presence kept coming through. And I kept thinking to myself, like, I think something happened with them. I think something happened with them. That's what I kept saying. I think something happened with them. I think something happened. But I didn't like see it. But then throughout my experience, their names finally came forward. And I was like, okay, yeah, like I remember them, like starting to remember their face, and I was just like, what happened? I kept asking, like, what happened? Like, why are they coming? Why am I like thinking about them? And then eventually I kept asking, and then I was like, okay, maybe they didn't necessarily like do anything to me, and then maybe they just had like energy around doing something inappropriate to me, but they didn't actually do it. And then
I had this vision that I was laying in bed with him, and like the man was like using my like body, like my little baby infant. I'm like not even a year old. This is like months old. And she's like using my body to like masturbate with, but not putting anything inside of me. And I was like really kind of just like processing this, because before I entered the ceremony, I was telling my mom that something that I was a little bit worried about was seeing something like that happening to me from my childhood, because I have this strong fear of men, and I have this thing in my mind of like, oh, I've never gotten sexually assaulted, and it's so common, so it's just a matter of time. So, but she was like, oh no, I don't think that's ever happened to you, because like when you were little, when you went to the doctors, they checked everything, and they, basically checked to see if like I had ever had my cherry broken as like a little kid, and it wasn't. And so I was like, okay, like I know that nothing like entered me like that, but I definitely felt and experienced something inappropriate happening as an infant in their bed, and like the wife being aware of what was happening. And I'm kind of like having a hard time processing it, because I don't want to believe that it's true, and there's part of me that's just like, oh no, you're making that up. But I feel like that's just discounting my experience. Because why would the medicine show me that? Why would their like names and faces keep coming up? Like it's not something like I wanted to happen. So now I'm feeling a little bit of shame around it, but I'm also happy that I saw it, because now it kind of gives me that release of knowing that like, okay, it did happen to me. Like I have been molested. So in a way, I feel like there's not as much fear around it happening again, because I was just having this thing of like, it's just a matter of time for it to happen. So I didn't cry at all. Like I didn't consciously cry during it, but when I would be laying down, I noticed that there were tears coming out of my eyes, and then I'd be like, oh my gosh, like my eyes are wet. My face is dripping. But I didn't have that sensation of crying, but I was definitely releasing tears out of my eyes. And then I would just like feel this burst of like, it's like energy, like hot energy, just like coming up from my body and like into my face. And like that's when I knew that I needed to throw up. And then I got up, and it just like came out. It was just like all came out so much. And it came out pretty easily, and it felt good to release that. And I just like felt really happy after I released it. And then one of the shamans came over, and she was like, she had a tissue. She was just like, wait, when I was like throwing up, and then I like lifted my head, and she was just sitting right there with tissues, just like waiting for me to be done. She was so sweet. It felt really good to be supported in that way. And then she was like, I'll be right back with some lotion. That's what she called it, but she came back with this like spray. She's like, open your hands. I'm gonna spray this in your hands, and I want you to breathe deeply. And it was like an alcohol essential oil kind of mixture. And I just like breathed. I can still smell it on my hands. Actually, it was really strong. But it was really good to, after throwing up, to like have that other sensation of just like breathing into something kind of like more refreshing. And I wasn't allowed to drink water during the ceremony, so I felt like there was definitely some moments where I was like, what do I need? Like I feel like I need something, but it just had to keep going back in, and that image just like kept replaying, and I just kept asking, like, did this really happen? Like, why? I don't understand. And then I went outside a couple of times. And at first, when I heard people throwing up, it really threw me off. And I would like put my hand on my ear so I wouldn't hear, and I would just like hear my own heartbeat. But by the end of the ceremony, it just became part of the experience, hearing other people throw up. And when I was throwing up, I was feeling like I had like a double explosion thing happening, and I was like trying to clench my butt cheeks together so that nothing would come out of the other end. And then immediately after I threw up, I like went to the bathroom, and it was just so much release. And I did feel better after that, but then when I came back to lay down, I was feeling like I could throw up again, but I didn't want to force it. It was just feelings of like extreme nausea and like stomach discomfort, but I just literally felt like the medicine was going inside of me and like doing so much work and so much healing, and just like going and finding where the trauma was stored. But by like maybe like the last 2 hours, I was just so exhausted, and then I kept feeling like these like sensations of like needing to throw up, but like not quite as much as it had felt like that first time that I threw up, where it was like just like an easy expulsion. So I was like sitting on the ground or sitting on the bed and just like rocking back and forth, like, oh, like, when is this gonna be over? I can't believe I have 3 more days of this. I'm just so exhausted. I feel like I'm in a spiritual battle right now, but I'm ready to uncover what's more to see. And I am praying that tonight I'll be able to find space.
So that day after when I recorded, I was kind of like dumbfounded and just almost in disbelief. Now there's been a little bit of time. I definitely have more sympathy for myself of not wanting to believe that it was true. But I also at the same time have confidence in the fact that something did happen. Whether it was in this dimension or another dimension, something did happen. Whether even if he dreamed it, if the man that did that to me dreamed it, something somewhere at some point did happen with them. I was going into the second day thinking, I hope that I get healing around this. But at the same time, I knew exactly why I needed to see that. And it was because I needed to get rid of this idea that something has never happened to me. It's just a matter of time. It was like, girl, it happened to you way a long time ago when you were very, very, very helpless and vulnerable. So just get that out of your mind. And I knew that right away. So I want to talk a little bit about how it's all set up in there. They call it a maloka, which is their word for like an ayahuasca space ceremony. And it was kind of set up as almost, imagine like 3 big yoga rooms next to each other, mostly all open, but there's kind of like some walls kind of dividing some portion. So you can't fully see everyone, but you can kind of like, there's at one point you can kind of see through the entire thing. You know, it's pretty open. And then right outside, and there's open doors, like French doors, big windows. And then when you walk outside, there's this big grassy lawn and hammocks, a bunch of hammocks, more bathrooms, a fire pit, and they tell you to not throw anything in the fire because the fire is sacred and it has like, it's a whole element in the ayahuasca experience. And then prior to going into the ceremonies, we had a lot of workshops that we had to do, like mandatory workshops as a group, and there's about 100 other people that were participating in this event. They really talk you through everything and tell you like, okay, you might be feeling this, you might be feeling this. Lean into things that make you feel uncomfortable. You know, don't try to fight anything. That's the rule of thumb with any type of psychedelic. But when it comes to ayahuasca, I did not feel like there was anything in me that even was able to fight. I felt like ayahuasca was literally this spirit that was so present within me that it was like I could have a conversation with her. They told me that there's 4 main things that you can experience with ayahuasca. The first one is body. That's throwing up, diarrhea, shaking, crying, yelling, anything to do with your body, yawning. The second one is Pinta, and that is when you see all of the visuals. You know, the kind of the stereotypical ayahuasca or like DMT kind of drawings that you'll see. Any type of visuals that you have. It's a vision, a like kaleidoscope kind of thing, Pinta. The third one is consult, and that is when you are having almost like a counseling session with ayahuasca, because you can talk to her while she's in you and she will answer with words, with visions, with anything, just like full on presence. And then the last one is nada, and that's when you fall asleep and you wake up and pretty much you don't experience yourself going through anything, but the medicine is still working within you. And the way that I experienced it is that since it is a drop of life force energy, it literally felt like the medicine was able to uncover things that happened or things that I may be suppressing or thinking about on a cellular level. Like there is no hiding from the ayahuasca. The ayahuasca is literally just like swarming in you, like, okay, where can we find the little nooks and crannies? Where do you have some dust in the cabinets at? We had to stop eating every day at 2:30. And then the ceremony starts at 5:30. So we're pretty much like intermittent fasting as well. I just want to throw that in there because there were moments where I got very hungry. And you can't drink water because if you put the water inside it's like your body becomes this cup for the ayahuasca. And if you put water in, it just like adds in a different type of chemical and waters it down, and it's gonna make you be like throwing up more. It's not gonna make the medicine work as well. So I was nervous about purging because I don't like the sensation of, throwing up or diarrheaing. But when I was experiencing it, it was almost like I wanted it to happen. Like I wanted whatever was inside of me to get out. So it almost felt like purging was the goal in a way, which is weird to say, but it is the goal because it's clean, it's cleansing so much of the energy. Next ceremony, we're gonna get into it right now. All right, so I'm feeling a lot better than I was yesterday. So yesterday when I made that video, it was pretty much right when I woke up, and I was just still really feeling the shock of having experienced the trauma as an infant. But then I did yoga and I cried so much and just like released so much. And I took like a 5-hour nap and it just completely cleared the energy. I woke up feeling really refreshed. So I felt good about going into the second ceremony last night. And I actually journaled pretty much during the ceremony, but after I had kind of like experienced my thing. So I'm gonna read this to you. So immediately after taking the first cup, I felt like it hit me right away. I went back to my mat and I felt like I was going to be the first one to throw up, and I really didn't want to be the first one to throw up. But I was just like really feeling it in my stomach and just like feeling that kind of like heat flash coming up, like I knew that it was coming sooner than later, because the night before I didn't throw up on the first cup. So I was like, just like breathe through it. And I was able to breathe through it for the most part, but then I was like, okay, I think I need to go to the bathroom. So I took my bucket, went to the bathroom, and like had a big release there. And I did, and it felt really good. And I felt like, in a way, I felt like I was kind of like in control over my purging. Whereas the night before, I felt like it was just gonna come up at any time. I didn't have much control over it. So that was probably within like it felt like the first 20 minutes. But then when I went back to my mat, the shaman called for the second cup, and he said he was going to call for the second cup about an hour and a half into the ceremony. So it was actually like a good amount of time. But since I had just purged, I was like, I need to wait for my stomach to settle, and I'll go to get the second cup in a little bit. And so then I just laid there and just allowed for the medicine to work through me. And it's wild because I could like put my hand on my stomach and literally feel it like doing things in there. My first visions were very like aquatic. I felt like I was all these different sea creatures. I was seeing so many different sea creatures, and then I ended up being like a frog, and like a little tiny frog. And I felt like when I saw myself as the frog, I was like jumping on a sidewalk, like out of my element in a way. And then a snake came up to me, but it came up to me in a very gentle way. And then it like wrapped around, it like coiled around me, but not in a way where it was like tight. It's like I was this flesh thing at this point. I was like transitioning from a frog into this like fleshy material, and the serpent came up and like lifted, like raised me up, so I was like at the top with the serpent, and it's like the coils were underneath me, and then I turned into like this fleshy blob that was then splattered onto a petri dish that my mom and dad were like looking over and just being like, what is this? Like, that's the energy that I felt them saying, like, what is this? And I could like see myself being like this like bloody embryo. It was literally like me from the first moments of like conception type of thing. And then that like fleshy self of mine turned into like enclosed into a clam. And then the clam, inside the clam, I could feel the pearl. And I was feeling the pearl being my soul. I could feel it and see it. Everything is happening behind closed eyes as well. After I had like the pearl moment, then a praying mantis came over to me. But the praying mantis, so I had the praying mantis approach me the previous night too, but this time I like pictured this flower, and then the praying mantis like transformed from one of the petals and like lifted up and just like so gracefully like put its hand out to me and was like, come on, take my hand, let's go on this journey. And then I put my hand out, and then we were like ascending into the sky, and then we stopped, and then it turned around and was like, wait, you're not ready, like we need to do some surgery. And then it stopped, and then like it opened up my pineal gland, and it did a surgery on my pineal gland and like shaved off some of the calcification. And I could see it happening. I could like see the tools that it was using. It was using like a tool kind of like a very slight like S shape, and it was just like, and then when the surgery was over, the praying mantis left, and then a different type of like alien formation came that was like, but a gentle spirit. It was like, the best way I can describe it is if you look in a microscope and you see those like tentacle like microorganisms, that almost like a very thin octopus in a way. And the alien came over to me and was like, okay, like let's go. And then I'm like getting up, like energetically getting up, like, okay, let's do this. And then it's like, no, you don't have to go anywhere. Like, and it took my hand, and then we went into like this spacecraft, and then we like flipped upside down like this, like, you know those roller coasters where you're sitting up and then it's like, ah. So we went like this, and then we just like shot straight up into the sky. And then that's pretty much all I remember. It was like it just left me in the ethers. I don't know what happened. I don't know if I fell asleep. I don't know if like something distracted me in the 3-dimensional realm or what, but yeah, that's pretty much like, I don't remember where we went after that. So I was like kind of in and out of sleep, in and out. And then at one point I saw one of those like dolls where you like lift up and it's like an egg and you like lift over so many layers. And then at the end, there was me as like a little tiny monkey curled up in like a fetus position like this, a little tiny baby monkey. And I could see the baby monkey like looking up and being like, oh, like I'm exposed, or like, oh, this is who I really am. And it was a weird thing of me being like, oh, I'm actually a monkey. It was very interesting. And then at one point, my cats came to me again. And my cats came to me the first night as the essence of all 3 of them as one cat. And it came up and like pawed on my back and then just like curled up on like my backside right here. And I just started crying so much. And I was just like feeling really sad about kind of like abandoning them. And I still feel sad about it. But I think that I'm still trying to process that one, but I think that it's because they are really like my first type of children that I've decided to take on and take care of. But at the same time, I feel like I was kind of irresponsible by allowing my original baby Mooney to get pregnant, and I don't think I was as ready for her to have those kittens and for me to be taking care of 3 cats at this stage in my life, because they do kind of like hold me back from fully being able to feel like I can just be a free sentient being, because I feel reliable for them. So I was just feeling really sad that I feel like I've like failed them in a way. And so I was crying a lot about that. Like I like consciously cried about my cats, and when I didn't even consciously cry about like being molested as an infant. So it was really interesting. I'm still trying to process that one. And then, okay, so then I kept feeling like this kind of pressure to get up to get the second cup. But I felt like the medicine was telling me like, no, just wait. You don't need a second cup. Just because the shamans, and most of the shamans are male shamans, the shamans that speak, and their whole thing is like, if you can hear the call and if you can get up, keep drinking. Drink, don't think, and just keep drinking. And I felt like the medicine is a very feminine energy, and I felt like she was like, you don't need to listen to them. Like, I'm Mama Aya. 1 cup is enough. Be gentle with yourself. Because going into last night's ceremony, I was really hoping that it would be a lot more gentle than the first night, because the first night was just so traumatic that I felt like the medicine was like, you be gentle with yourself too. Like, don't force it. Don't try to go overboard. Like, I'm giving you everything that you need right now. And I felt like I kind of like made this pact in a way with the medicine to not get another cup. And I also was feeling very dehydrated. I was feeling I didn't drink enough water to be able to purge again if I needed to. So I felt like the medicine was just gonna like be kind of like stuck inside of me. I didn't eat like a lunch before, so I didn't feel like there was like enough substance to be able to energetically release the emotions from a purge. So then at one point I had like woke up and I smiled, and I realized the moment that I smiled, I felt my heart smiling, and I realized that me smiling is a direct correlation to my heart, and that at any moment, if I want to heal, protect, make my heart feel better, my smile is the key to that. And it just felt really good and wholesome to be able to feel that. Also, before I fell asleep, a lot of people were purging. Like, and it was very intense to be in a room of just hearing everybody just like throwing up the whole entire time. So at one point I was kind of feeling like I was in this, like, it was feeling like kind of like a demonic dungeon, just like everybody like, blah, blah. Can you imagine that like times 20? Literally like 20 people all at once just like throwing up, and the lights are very dimmed. Like, well, the lights, it's off, and there's just kind of like candles and like shamanic music playing. So I was really trying to like put over a cloak of protection over me, because it is a very intense energy to be in that when everybody's releasing so much trauma, so much fear, so much like pent up energy. So I was like very aware of just like protecting my space in that way. I fell asleep, and I felt like I was asleep for a long time. And then when I woke up, I was like, I felt completely sober. And I was like, oh, maybe I should get the second cup now. But then I was like, oh, but it feels really late. I don't know if I'm even gonna have enough time to be able to have like an experience in this like space where I'm supported with these people. Or if I don't wanna, what I didn't wanna happen is to drink and then have it be like 40 minutes until I'm starting to feel it, and then the ceremony be over, and then I'm just like having this whole experience back in my room. So I was like contemplating it so much, and then I ended up going outside, looking at the fire, just kind of like debating it back in my head. And then I saw one of the female shamans, and I told her like what I was feeling, and she was like, well, I was like, I'm feeling really dehydrated. The first cup hit me really hard, but I'm feeling like I made this pact with Mama Aya, but now I'm feeling like I kind of want the second cup. Like, is there even enough time? And she was like, he already called for the last cup, but I can ask him if he can pour you another one, like a small one. And I was like, oh, no, it's fine. Like, I felt like that was just confirmation that I didn't need anymore, because the ceremony was going to be ending soon. But it was so interesting because from that point to the ceremony actually ending, I felt like there was like 2 hours that had passed. I have no idea what the time actually was because there's no phones allowed, there's no clocks. But the ceremony ended up ending at like 5 a.m. So I really felt like I could have had a second cup, but I'm happy that I honored and respected my relationship and communication and pact with the medicine to not do that. So I just had a really good sleep and I felt really at peace with the experience that I had. It was really interesting. No images or feelings from the first night with like the whole molestation thing ever surfaced. And I was really wondering if it would, so to see if I had like clarity on healing that, but it didn't. So, and I just fell asleep. I woke up today feeling really good, really alive. And yeah, so that was my experience last night. And then tonight is supposed to be like a very divine feminine energy. So we'll see. We will see what happens. So now reflecting back on the whole cat situation, I think that I was so sad about it because it relates to the whole petri dish thing with my parents being like, what is this? And it was me allowing my original cat to get pregnant was a conscious decision that I made to say, I'm bringing these spirits into this world. And which was the same decision that my parents made. I wasn't an accident child. Like, they consciously tried to have me. And when I've had struggles in life and thought about just like lightweight childhood trauma, I've asked my parents sometimes, like, were you ready to have me? You know, like, what were your real intentions about bringing me into this world? You know, is it because like you thought it was going to be like fun and cute to be a parent, or like it's just because it's like what you're supposed to do at that age, or what? And so I think that I relate it to having my cats, and it's like they didn't ask to be here. I kind of like placed them in positions to be here, and now I feel like indebted to them. And I think it's like a generational thing that I am healing through, because none of us really ask to be here, but at the same time we do ask to be here because we are here. And somewhere in the cosmic swirl of life, our soul said, it's time to go down to earth. It's time to live this human experience. God said, it's time for you to be here. You to be here with me watching this video right now. And then the alien, I didn't remember the alien looking like that, which is also an interesting correlation to night 3 that you'll see, because the alien came to me as a very gentle spirit this night. In night 3, I had a completely different experience with the alien.